Hey guys, good morning everyone. Today is Wednesday, March 24th, and this is GED class. Today we're going to start with math warm-up number 27 in your packet. Then we're going to look at those equation word problems that we started yesterday. We did the 3 examples. Today I'm going to start going through the problems on the back, which is page 357. And I'm also going to go through the reading and some slides to further explain a little bit more about the United States economic system. So we'll read through the reading and then I'll show you some slides that I found that hopefully help explain a little bit better what we're reading. All right, so to start, I'm going to go to the math warm-up. I wrote in dark purple, so it's kind of see-through. Sorry about that. Hopefully we can still read the problems okay. So again, we're on math warm-up number 27. This should be in your packet if you picked that up. And I'm just going to go through how to do these. Now I lost my purple pen. There it is. All right, so number 1, we've got 4 problems. It looks like these are all multiplication. So remember parentheses, if you've got a number outside parentheses and a number inside parentheses, this is showing multiplication, another multiplication with parentheses, and the 4th one uses the dot in between, but those are all symbols showing that we need to multiply. And we've got negative and positive numbers. So the first one, -9 times -9. Just remember the rules with multiplying and dividing negatives. Anytime you've got a positive number and you're multiplying by a negative number, your answer is always negative. Anytime you're multiplying two negative numbers, your answer will be positive. So because I've got a -9 times a -9, my answer will be positive. 9 times 9, 81, positive 81. Letter B, we've got -7 times 13. A negative times a positive. Anytime I've got a negative and a positive number and I'm multiplying, my answer will be negative. So I can go ahead and put the negative there. And now I just have to figure out what's 13 times 7. 13 times 7, we would do 7 times 3, 21. 7 times 1 is 7, plus 2, we get 91. So it's -91. Letter C, 2.5 times -4. Positive number times a negative. So my answer will be negative. And we're multiplying by a decimal. So 2.5 times 4. I'm just going to multiply like normal, and I put the decimal in at the end. So 5 times 4 is 20. 4 times 2 is 8. Plus 2 more is 10. So it looks like 100, but that's not the answer because I had a decimal point in one of the numbers I'm multiplying. There is 1 digit after that decimal. My second number didn't have any decimal points. So I just need to put a decimal in my answer so that there is 1 digit after that decimal place. So I want to place my decimal here because then there's 1 digit, the 0 comes after the decimal. So my answer is just -10. -10 is the same as 10.0. And the last one, we've got a fraction times a fraction, a negative times a positive. So my answer will be negative. And I just do 3 times 3 is 9. 4 times 5 is 20. So we get -9/20. I can look at these two numbers and see if I can simplify or reduce. When you think about a 9 and a 20, is there anything that both of these can be equally divided by? I can divide 9 by 3, but that won't work for 20. So no, there's not. All right, part 2. Here we've got division, all division. Division follows the same rules as multiplication. So when you are dividing a positive and a negative number, my answer is always negative. And when you are dividing two negative numbers, your answer is positive. 90 divided by negative 3. So I've got a positive and a negative. I know my answer will be negative. And I got to figure out 90 divided by 3. 3 goes into 9 3 times. 3 times 9, or sorry, 3 times 3 is 9. I subtract, get a 0. But I've still got a 0 over here, so I need to place a 0 above it. So we get 30, but it's negative 30. Part B, or letter B, negative 18 divided by negative 4. There are two negatives being divided, so my answer is positive. I just have to figure out what is 18 divided by 4. It won't be perfect, so I'm going to have to either make a fraction or a decimal. All right, so let's see. 4 goes into 18. I know 4 times 4 is 16. 4 times 5 is 20, so it can fit in 4 times. 4 times 4 is 16. We subtract. 18 minus 16 is 2. 4 can't go into 2. I don't have any numbers to bring down, so I'm going to make a decimal here and up top. Now I can add a 0. So now 4 can go into 20 exactly 5 times, and that will leave us without any remainders. We get 4.5. Positive 4.5. Letter C, I've got positive 144 divided by negative 12. Because I've got a positive and a negative, my answer is negative 144 divided by 12. 12 goes into 14 once. We subtract 12. 14 minus 12 is 2. 12 can't go into 2. I bring down my 4. 12 goes into 24 exactly twice. So we'll have negative 12. And the last one, these are fractions. So remember, when you divide fractions, you actually multiply by the reciprocal of the second fraction. I've got a negative 2/3 divided by a positive 1/3. So I'm using one positive, one negative. My answer will be negative. And I'm going to rewrite this so that I'm going to do 2/3. That will stay the same. But instead of dividing, we're going to multiply. And instead of 1/3, I'm going to flip these numbers. So I'm going to have the 3 on the top and the 1 on the bottom. Then we just multiply. So 2 times 3 is 6. 3 times 1 is 3. And 6 divided by 3, because this is an improper fraction, 6 divided by 3 is 2. But it will be a negative 2, because we had a negative and a positive number. All right, number 3. Caleb and Sarah are having a Halloween party. They have 3.5 pounds of candy to divide into 14 goodie bags. How much candy will be in each bag? So we are dividing, and we're dividing the 3.5 pounds into 14 different bags. We're trying to figure out how much candy, how many pounds will be in each bag. So my problem might look like this: 3.5 divided by 14. This fraction, though, it's a mixed number. So I need to change this to a improper fraction. Instead of 3.5, I'm going to do 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7. 7 over 2, or 7 halves, is equal to 3.5. If I do 7 divided by 2, I'll get 3.5. So I change this to an improper fraction. I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal. So really, this is 14 wholes, or 14 over 1. And I'm going to flip these around and multiply. So 7 over 2 times, and I'm going to change the 14 to be on the bottom, so it's going to be 1 over 14. See if I can write this clear. So 7 over 2 times 1 over 14. Doing this multiplication, because I flipped my second fraction, is the same as dividing. And it's how you divide fractions. So now we just multiply 7 times 1 is 7. 2 times 14 is 28. Can I reduce 7 and 28? Well, 28 can be divided by 7. So if I divide both of these numbers by 7, we'd get 1 over 4. So my answer, each bag will have 1/4, and we're using pounds, so 1/4 of a pound in each of the 14 bags. So we did 3.5 divided by 14. We ended up having to change to 7 halves, and then we multiply by the reciprocal, 7 halves times 1 over 14. And number 4, at the grocery store, it says almonds are on sale for $2.88 per pound. What is the price of 3.5 pounds? So 1 pound is $2.88. We want to know how much will it cost to buy 3.5 pounds. So here we're going to multiply because we're going to be buying 3.5 pounds. So $2.88 times 3.5. I need to rewrite this. So when you're multiplying two decimals, you don't have to line up the decimal, but you do have to line up your digits. So I want my number with the most digits on top, which is the 288, because that has 3 digits. And then 3.5 only has 2 digits, but I'm going to line up my digits so that I've got the furthest digits on the right all underneath each other. Otherwise, it's too hard to see what I'm doing. You can ignore the decimals because we'll put those in at the end. So we're just going to multiply 8 times 5 is 40. 8 times 5 plus 4 is 44. 5 times 2 is 10 plus 4. We get 14. Then we go on to the next digit because we went over a place value. I'm going to put a 0. 8 times 3 is 24. 8 times 3 again, 24. And then I had 25, 26. 3 times 2 is 6, 7, 8. All right, so now I have to add these up. 0 and 0 is 0, 4 and 4 is 8, 6 and 4 is 10, and then we have 8, 9, 10. So I get 10080. Now I have to place my decimal. In this problem, we had both of our numbers, both had decimals. The first number, 2.88, it has 2 digits or 2 numbers after the decimal point. So I'm going to write a little 2. The second number, 3.5, only has 1 number after the decimal point. In my answer, I need to add these together. So 2 plus 1, I need to make a decimal point so that I have 3 digits after my decimal point. So if I put my decimal point here, I would only have 1 number after. If I put it here, I'd have 2. I need to put it here so that I have 3. So 10.08, I can ignore that last 0 because it doesn't add any value. So altogether, I'm going to pay $10.08 for 3.5 pounds of almonds. So hopefully that was a good review about how to multiply when you've got multiple decimals. It's a little tricky. It's a lot easier on a calculator, but remember there are a few GED problems on the test that you cannot use a calculator for. I can check it. So if I want to check and just make sure, on my calculator, I would just do 2.88 times 3.5, and we do get 10.08. So we were right. We got it right. It just took a little while. All right, guys, so that's the warm-up. Next, we're going to go to the book. This is page 356 and 357. Yesterday, I went through all of these examples. Today, we're going to start going through the practice problems. And remember, these are tricky. They're tricky for me. And the hardest part is getting the correct equation written. I think the solving part's easy, but writing the equation, definitely challenging. Okay, so I'm just gonna make sure I've got my eraser and some markers. Okay, so number one, it says 2 houses are for sale on the same street. Okay, the second house, so we've got 2 houses, they're for sale. The second house has 1,000 square feet less than twice the square feet of the first house. So the second house is smaller. Together, the houses have 4,400 square feet. If you add up their square footage, we'll get 4,400. What is the square footage of the first house? So we want to know, how big is that first house? For this one, I'm going to start with a drawing. So I know that there are 2 houses. I'm just going to draw a picture. I know that one house is bigger than the other. It says 2 houses are for sale. The second house has 1,000 square feet less than twice the square feet of the first house. I don't know which one's bigger. I don't know if the first one's bigger or the second one's bigger. So I'm just going to draw 2 houses. One house, the first house, is just going to be X. We don't know how many square feet it is, but it's X square feet. The second house, we know more about it. It has 1,000 square feet less than twice the square feet of the first house. So whatever X is, this one's twice as big, but then you have to subtract 1,000. So if the second house is twice as big as the first house, the second house is going to be 2x, but we have to take away 1,000 because it was twice the square feet, but 1,000 less than twice the square feet. So 1,000 less means subtract from the twice as much. Okay, so this house and this house together equal 4,400 square feet. To show that this and this together, I would add these together. So now we have our equation that we can solve. And when we solve and figure out what x equals, we'll know how big the first house is. This is the first house, this is the second. But you see how it gets a little bit, confusing. But let's solve, because now we've got the equation. So I've got x plus 2x minus 1,000 equals 4,400. Is there anything that I can combine on the left that I can simplify before we even start trying to get x by itself? Well, I've got an x plus 2x. These are like terms. I can combine them together. X is the same as 1x. So we're just adding x plus 2x together. That gives me 3x. So that's nice because now I've just got 3x. And then I'm going to bring down my 1,000 and bring down my equals 4,400. Okay, so now I'm trying to get x by itself because we're trying to solve for x. I'm going to get rid of this 1,000 first because it's not attached to the x. We are subtracting 1,000. So in order to cancel that out, I'm going to do the opposite of subtracting, which is adding. So we add 1,000. I'm going to add 1,000 to the other side. So we get 5,400. And all we've got left is 3 times x. Now we got to get rid of the 3. It's being multiplied by x, so we're going to do the opposite. We're going to divide. 3 divided by 3 is just 1x, or x. 5,400 divided by 3. Got to quick do that down here. So 3 goes into 5 once. We subtract. 5 minus 3 is 2. 3 can't go into 2. I need to bring down my 4. 3 goes into 24 8 times. I have 0 left, but I've got these 2 other place values, so I need to put zeros above. So I get 1,800. X equals 1,800, which means that first house we solved, the first house is 1,800. And that is the one they are asking for. If they wanted to know how big the second house was, then we would put 1,800 in for x. So you would do 2 times 1,800 and then minus 1,000. That would give you how big the second house is. But we got lucky and they just want to know how big is the first house. Well, because we solved for x, it's just 1,800. So number 1, 1,800 or 1,800 square feet. Make sure you read the question, because if they had asked for the square footage of the second house, we would have to put in a different answer. All right, so we made it through that first one. So as you're reading these, I would do exactly what we're doing right now. You're going to highlight the information that you find in the problem that will be useful, and then make sure you highlight the question so that you remember what you need to write as your answer. All right, number 2, Julia has 24 coins in her pocket. So I'm going to highlight that because that looks important. It looks like all the coins together are 24. The coins are either dimes or quarters. That's important too, because we know that these have different values. A dime is going to be 10 cents, a quarter, 25 cents. The total value of the coins is $4.50. So altogether, the value, $4.50. The question, how many coins are dimes? Okay, and then they give us this hint. Hint, the value of the dimes is 0.10x, so 10 cents as a decimal, x. And the value of the quarters is 0.25 times 24 minus x. So that's going to help us write our equation. She's got 24 coins all together. We know that she's got a total of $4.50. We're going to write dimes. So if you think about like a dime, we know it's 10 cents, but we're going to write it as a decimal. So 0.10x is the dime. The quarters, which is a bigger coin, we're going to write that value as 0. I'm not going to write the 0. Let's just do 0.25 times 24 minus x. Because we know she has a total of 24 coins, but however many dimes she has, if we subtract however many dimes she has, that will be how many quarters she has. So if she has 24 altogether, 24 minus the amount of dimes will be the amount of quarters. And altogether, she's going to have $4.50. So the total, $4.50. This one, we definitely can use a calculator, I think, for these problems, so I'm not going to try to handwrite everything. But how do we make an equation out of this? We know she's got 24 coins. We know she's got a total of 450 in value of coins. And we know that we're writing the dimes like this and the quarters like this. So how do I make that into an equation? We've got most of it. All we need to do is add these together. So the amount of dimes, 0.10 times x, that means however many dimes she has, they're going to be worth 10 cents each. That's the x. The x is the amount. This is the 10 cents. The amount of dimes plus the amount of quarters. So I need to add a plus here because together, all added together, they make 450. So 0.10x plus the quarters is going to be 0.25. I'm not going to have enough room. Let me make this smaller. 0.10x plus 0.25 times 24 minus x equals 450. So the amount of dimes plus the amount of quarters equals 450. They gave us this. This was the hard part to get, knowing that the dimes is just going to be times the amount, but the quarters is going to be the amount of total coins minus the amount of dimes. I think that was tricky, and maybe that's why they gave it to us as a hint. Okay, so first, I guess before I start solving, I need to simplify. I see a parentheses, and so we're going to have to do some multiplication. We've got 0.25. We're going to have to multiply that times 24. So on my calculator, I'm just going to do 0.25 times 24 equals 6. On this calculator, there's no equals. Equals is enter. So we get 6. So 0.25 times 24, that's just 6. And then we have to also multiply 0.25, because remember there's this decimal. So 0.25 times negative x. So we're going to do minus 0.25x. So that was the distribution of the 0.25. I made this point too far away. Should be here. Okay, and then I'm just going to bring down my 0.10x plus. So we distributed this 0.25. We got this. Is there anything else I can combine on this side? So this was equals 450. I've got 0.10x, I've got a 6, and I've got a minus 0.25x. These both have x attached. I can combine them. So we're going to do 0.10, and it's minus, so minus 0.25. We get negative 0.15. So negative 0.15x plus the 6 equals 450. And I just combined these two and brought down the 6. All right, so now I can start solving. Now I think we've simplified everything that we can. We're trying to get x by itself, but first we need to get rid of the 6. So I'm going to subtract 6 because right now it's being added. So 6 minus 6 is 0. 450 minus 6, that's going to be a negative because this is $4.50 minus 6. We don't have enough. So 4.5 minus 6 gives me negative 1/2, negative 1.5. 4.5 minus 6. So this is negative 1.5. and we had negative 0.156. All right. The last step, I got to get rid of the 0.15 that's being multiplied by x. So I'm going to divide by a negative 0.15. A negative divided by a negative is positive. These are just going to cancel each other out. We have to do the same on the other side. Negative 1.5 divided by negative 0.15. So on my calculator, I'm going to do negative, here's the negative button, 1.5 divided by negative 0.15. They're almost the same numbers. You got to be really careful with the decimal point. Negative 1.5. Oh, and I did times. Should be divided. Negative 1.5 divided by negative 0.15. Enter. We get positive 10. After all that, we finally figured out x equals 10, which means there's going to be 10 dimes. So x is 10. Up here, the dimes was going to be 10 cents times x. What's the question? They wanted to know how many coins are dimes. So we figured it out. X equals 10. There are 10 dimes. If they wanted to know how many quarters, we would just do 24 minus 10. Because there was a total of 24 quarters. So 24 minus, we know x is 10, 14 quarters. 14 quarters and 10 dimes. That was a tricky one. It took the entire board. Number 3, the Bulldogs. The Bulldogs won twice as many games as they lost. If they played a total of 36 games, how many did they win? Okay, so here's this team. How many wins did they have? They won twice as many as they lost. So I'm going to write wins equals 2 times as many as they lost. So 2 times x. The loss, how many did they lose? It's just going to be x. So the wins, they won twice as many games as they lost, so 2 times x, which means how many times did they lose? It's going to be x. We know they played a total of 36 games, and they want to know how many did they win. So the wins plus the losses, we're going to add these together, equals 36, because that's how many games total. 2x plus x equals 36. So that's my equation. This one's a little bit easier. It's a lot easier, actually. I can combine my x's. I've got 2x plus x. So this is just going to be 3x equals 36. I want to get x by itself. All we have to get rid of is this multiplying by 3. So we do the opposite. We're going to divide by 3. 3 divided by 3 is just 1. We have 1x equals, and 36 divided by 3, you should get 12. Because 12 times 3 is 36. So x equals 12. But is that the answer? We solved for x, but x is the amount of losses. So the amount of losses is 12. They're asking for the amount of wins. How many games did they win? So that's why you have to read the question really careful. If I did put 12 as my answer, I'd get it wrong. The wins is going to be 2 times x. So 2 times 12, which is 24. So my answer, 24. They won 24 games. And if you add them together, 24 plus the 12 losses, you do get 36. All right, I'm going to do one more and then we'll save the rest for tomorrow because these take quite a while to get through. And I want to make sure we get through some of the social studies stuff. Okay, so let's look at number 4. It says the sum, which means the addition of 4 consecutive even numbers is 212. What is the third number? So we've got a lot going on here. We've got sum, which means we're adding. We know there are 4 numbers. Consecutive means in a row. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Those are all consecutive, but they're only even numbers. So we're talking about every other number. We're talking about 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. Any number that's divisible by 2 is an even number. So it's not every number. So together, those 4 numbers equal 212. They want to know what's the third number. So there's 4 total numbers. They want to know what's the third number. They give us a big hint here. So hint, let x equal the first number. So I'm going to write this down. I know there are 4 numbers. I'm just going to write first, second, third, fourth. We know all together they equal 212. And they tell me the first number is just going to be x. X equals the first number. Let x equal first number. X plus 2 is the second number. So the second number is going to be x plus 2. Because whatever the first number is, the second number has to be 2 more. Let's say the first number is 6. The second number has to be whatever the first number is plus 2. So this would be 8. The third number is going to equal x plus 4. And the fourth number would be x plus 6. Because it's every other number. But let's say the first number is 2. The second number, you would do 2 plus 2, which is 4. The third number, you would do 2 plus 4, which is 6. The fourth number, you would do 2 plus 6, which is 8. So this is just a way to show that we're doing every other number. We're doing all the even numbers. So we're going to use this to make an equation. So the first number, x, if I add that to the second number, x plus 2, plus the third number, x plus 4, plus the fourth number, x plus 6, all together, we know they equal 200, what did they say, 212. Because they said the sum, meaning the total all together, breaking my camera, is 212. So this is the first number, this is the second number, this is the third number, this is the fourth number. Add them all together, we get 212. All right, we have to start simplifying. So x plus 2 plus x plus 4 plus x plus 6. What can we combine? Well, first we can combine all the x's. I've got x plus x plus x plus x. 1, 2, 3, 4 x's. So that could just be shown as 4x. Then I can combine my constants, my numbers. I've got a 2 plus a 4 plus a 6. 2 plus 4 is 6. 6 plus 6 is 12. So 4x plus 12 equals 212. I can't combine my 4x and 12 because they're not like terms, so now we're going to start solving. I'm going to get rid of my plus 12 first. I'm going to subtract. 12 minus 12 is 0. 212 minus 12 is just going to be 200. And we just have 4x on that side. 4x equals 200. I got to get rid of the 4. It's being multiplied by x. So I'm going to divide by x. Sorry, divide by 4. And divide by 4 over here. We can do 200 divided by 4 gives us 50. So x equals 50. Now, we solved for x. X equals 50. That's correct. But what is the question asking? They are asking, what is the third number? So when you look at the numbers that we wrote down, the first number is x. The third number is x plus 4. So we solved for x, but now we have to do x plus 4. So the answer is going to be 50 plus 4, which is 54. So the third number, 54. So that means, like, if I wanted to show everything, if x equals 50, the first number was 50. The second number is going to be x plus 2, so it'll be 52. The third number would be 54. And the fourth number would be 56. If you add those all together, you should get 212. All right, guys, I'm going to stop there for math. I'm going to do 5 through 8 tomorrow, and we'll try to get through the rest of these. I'll just see how much time we have. And then I'm going to move to social studies. I want to read through this lesson and try to get through my slides. Okay, so we're in economics. We're on lesson 2. We're reading about the U.S. economic system. Yesterday, I talked about the vocabulary, just read through the definitions. Today, we're going through the reading. Tomorrow, we'll look at the questions. All right, 3 key ideas. It says the U.S. economy is built on principles of the laissez-faire capitalism. Means government has minimal intervention. Businesses and entrepreneurs and people are pretty much not free, but have a lot of freedom in what they can buy and sell and produce. Number 2, the U.S. economy moves through cyclical phases of growth, slowdown, recession, and recovery. It means there's a cycle. We talked a little bit about the business cycle. I'll talk more about it today. Cyclical just means a cycle. And the cycle is your business grows really fast at first, then it might slow down a little bit. Then there might even be a recession where you're losing money, but there's always a recovery. At least the economy is like this. Your personal business, like maybe whatever product you're selling isn't working and maybe you don't recover. But the economy as a whole, it's like the whole country, the cycle works pretty, it's pretty predictable. It means if there's a recession, there eventually will be a recovery. It won't stay a recession or a depression forever. And 3, saving and investing contribute to the economy by making money available for businesses to grow. So if you want to start a business, most people have to take out a loan because they don't have a ton of cash laying around. And so banks and other loan companies help people by providing money that you can use right away. All right, so I'm just going to read through this and then I'll show you the pictures and the slides that I found to go with this. All right, it says in the United States, the economic activity of individual people and businesses primarily determines our economic health and growth. So how people are doing, like with their jobs, if they're able to find a job, if they're able to make good money, that is primarily what determines our country's economic health and growth. We make our own decisions about how to save and spend most of our income. We can accept employment as we choose. So we get to decide how much money we want to save, how much we want to spend, and how we want to save that. If we want to put it in a savings account or if you want to invest in stocks, that's up to you. You can also choose where to work and when to quit where you work, when to go back to school and find a different job. We can become entrepreneurs. That means you can make your own business and build businesses of our own and seek education and training to whatever level best serves our goals. So it's not the government telling people what they have to do or where they have to work. It's up to individual people. It says these freedoms are based on laissez-faire capitalism. The ideas of 18th century economist Adam Smith, so he started the laissez-faire capitalism, the thought or the idea of it, who believed that if individuals are free to act in their own best interest economically, the sum total of their actions will be in the best interest of society as a whole. He said, give people the freedom to work where they want and to do what they want with their money because they'll make decisions that benefit them, but then as a whole, it will benefit everybody in the country. Throughout the history of the United States, free enterprise and competition have played important roles in the development of our economy. So, businesses being able to compete with each other has helped our economy. Why? Because businesses have incentives to grow larger, either by expanding their capacity, means hiring more people, buying more factories, selling more product, or by integrating a broader set of functions into their operations in order to make more profit. However, businesses are expected to compete with each other on the merits of their products and operations. So they have to make a good product, they have to make it quality, but then you don't want only one business selling something, you want several because then the prices stay low. Businesses are not allowed to form monopolies, which are single companies that control whole industries. And they are also not allowed to form oligopolies, which are tight knit groups of companies that control the whole industry. So, our economy, they don't want monopolies and oligopolies. It's supposed to be illegal, but there are definitely big companies that have a lot of influence and a lot of control. If you think of like Amazon, a lot of people use Amazon, and a company that's trying to compete with Amazon and do the same thing is going to have a really hard time. There's no law saying they can't do it, but they're just going to have a hard time competing with how successful Amazon has already gotten. It'd be really hard to compete with Amazon. But in the United States, it's not illegal to compete with Amazon. You can. Because the US economy is not under government control, no one can predict or control exactly how the economy will behave. Our economy tends to move through a business cycle, which is the up and downs, with identifiable phases, but the length and strength of a cycle and its phases vary greatly. The first phase of the cycle is the growth phase, in which the businesses invest and expand optimistically. At some point, growth is slowed or stopped by one or more factors: limited resources, limited production, tight employment or market saturation, and the economy enters a slowdown phase. So it's like first you've got growth, and then you've got slowdown. And As businesses lay off workers, stop investing their capital, and cut back production, the economy enters a recession or depression. So then we've got recession, which definitely happened last year with COVID. Lots of businesses were shut down, not making much money. People were laid off. So we went from growth, slowed down, and slowed down really fast into a recession where there were a lot of people out of work. Unemployment rises, consumer spending slows down, and businesses act very conservatively. Means they're not spending much money or hiring very many people, holding down wages and prices, avoiding risks, and managing cash flow tightly. But eventually, the economy moves into a recovery phase. So after the recession, it doesn't last forever. There will be a recovery, which I think we're starting to get into now, and then it goes back into growth. So it's this like forever cycle. Perhaps initiated by a government action. So you think about like the COVID relief that like small businesses got. They were able to still stay open, some of them, because of loans that the government gave them, or like the stimulus checks that everyone, or not everyone, but that a lot of people have gotten. Those are government actions. So the government steps in and tries to help so that the recession doesn't last quite so long. Recovery may be slow or uneven across economic sectors, but eventually the economy moves into a new growth phase. So then we go back into growth. Inflation, in which the combined prices of goods and services grows faster than the purchasing power of the currency, is only partly related to these business cycle phases. So as prices go up and like the price of food or gas or new cars or whatever it is, as that rises, that's inflation. But they say it's only partly related to what cycle our economy is in. Banking and investment services, like most U.S. industries, are conducted on principles of free enterprise. A major role of banks and savings and loan associations is to create pools of savings in order to make money available as credit to businesses and consumers. So, offering loans for houses or for opening up a new business or like credit cards, that is all part of what the banks and the savings and loan associations do. Stock exchanges have a similar purpose. They allow investors to purchase shares of stock, which represent part ownership of a business. So you can invest in a business. Like you could buy stock in Amazon, which is very expensive. But then as Amazon is doing well and increasing their value, the money that you invested would also grow. So if you invested $1,000, but then Amazon grew a lot and they became even more valuable, maybe your $1,000 turns into $1,500. And then maybe a few years later, it turns into $3,000. So your money can grow if the company is successful. But if you invest in a company that doesn't do so well or suffers some kind of slowdown or recession, your money would shrink as that company's value shrinks. So it's kind of a gamble. Could go really well, it could go not so well. Both saving and investing make funds available for businesses to use to grow. When people invest in stock, they take risks because the value of the stock depends on the success of the business. However, the potential return is generally much higher than the interest rate on a savings account. That's so true. If you guys have money in a savings account and you get like a statement every month or so, it's really it's really pathetic how much money you get back from keeping your money in a savings account. I think we got pennies back last year from how much we had in our savings. It's just the percent is so small that you don't get much much back at all. Okay, so that was the lesson. That was everything that we were supposed to learn about the US economic system. I have some slides here kind of going over what we learned. So this one's just explaining a little bit more about the laissez-faire economic theory. Laissez-faire is a French phrase and it means let do, like let them do what they want. It says laissez-faire economics restrict government intervention in the economy. Now it's not completely restricted because like the stimulus checks and the small loans or business loans that the government gave, they are intervening, they are helping. Um, but overall, they're not that involved. It's not like a communist country where the government has complete control over every business. We are trying to stay away from that. It says in order to work laissez-faire policies, they need capitalism, a free market economy, and rational market theory. The founder, they mentioned this in the reading, Adam Smith. These are some other people that also believed in no government interference. The leaders of the Industrial Revolution favored this approach because government interference was seen as a threat to economic growth. People and companies thought that they could have a better grip or control of the economy than the government. It says in the late 1800s, businesses operated without much government regulation. This is known as laissez-faire economics. Laissez-faire means allowed to be in French, or the government stays out of your business. Laissez-faire supports our economic system of capitalism, so minimal government interference. Free enterprise. They mentioned this in the reading. Free enterprise. It's a system in which private businesses operate in competition and largely free of state control. It just means you're allowed to compete with other businesses. The government's not going to tell businesses that they can or can't exist. We have the freedom. It says we live in a country that operates as a free enterprise system. This is an economy in which individuals and businesses play a major role in making decisions. It's like the CEOs of companies. They have a lot of influence. They have a big role in deciding how the economy is going to either do well or not do well. People can operate any type of business they choose as long as it is lawful or legal. This is going over a monopoly. So what is a monopoly? It's when you have a single seller of a product, good, or service. You can only get it from one place. Mono means single or alone. Polo or POL in this word means to sell. So it would mean like selling alone. If you are a single seller and like let's say like Apple was the only cell phone company, that would mean that because you didn't have any competition from Samsung or any of the other phone makers, you could charge really high prices. You could not make your products very good. Inferior means not good quality, and less innovation. You don't have a reason to keep improving your product because no one's competing with you. Competition is the rivalry of two or more parties over something. So competition between businesses is really good because it's going to keep our prices lower and it's going to make these companies compete with each other to make new and better quality and new like functions in their An oligopoly means there are a lot of people buying, but only a few sellers. So monopoly is one seller. Oligopoly means there are a few. Product may be differentiated or standardized. Buyers are small relative to market, but sellers are large. Firms have market power derived from, I don't know what a lot of this means. I'm not an economist, but I know that our country does not want monopolies or oligopolies. We want as much competition as possible. So oligopoly just means it's not one person or company in control, but it's a few. Here is a graph. So we talked about the cycle of growth and then a slowdown and then a recession and then a recovery. This is kind of showing the up and down. But over time, there's kind of this red line that's going through. It means even though we go up and down all the time in the economy, if you look at it as a whole, we are going up, just maybe not as fast as some of these growth cycles look, but we're not trending down. We are trending up. We are growing, we are making more money, we are producing more things, but there are going to be this up and down cycle. It says the business cycle is up and down movement in production and jobs. A business cycle has, they say 2 phases. We talked about 4: expansion and recession, a turning point, a peak, and a trough. So this is getting like kind of deep into economics. I think knowing that there's going to be growth, slowdown, recession, and recovery is a little bit easier to think about it. I think trough is their word for recession. You're going down. But just knowing it's going to go up and down whenever you're really high and there's a lot of jobs and a lot of people that are not out of work, eventually that will change. Something will happen and it will slow down. But when things are not really good, when things are bad, you'll know that eventually it will get better. Inflation. Inflation is when there is an increase in price for goods and services. This is always happening. So prices now for like everything that we buy, food and clothes and houses, are going to be a lot higher than they were 10, 20, 40, 50 years ago because over time, the prices are going to keep increasing. As inflation rises, the purchasing power of the dollar falls. So maybe 100 years ago, a dollar could buy you a lot more than it could now. It's just how it happens. Prices will always inflate. Hopefully, your wages and like how much money you're making will also increase, because if they didn't, that'd be really bad. So inflation is rising general level of prices. It reduces the purchasing power of money. So example, it takes $2 to buy what $1 bought in 1982. So maybe you could buy a loaf of bread for $1 in 1982. Now it's $2 or $3. When inflation occurs, each dollar of income will buy fewer goods than before. But if you look at like the salary of people in the 80s compared to now, hopefully that is increasing as well. This is just a cartoon. So this big fat rat is supposed to symbolize inflation, and he's taking big bites of money, like he's decreasing the value of that money. And the last couple slides are talking about interest. So interest is just extra money. It's a percentage that you pay when you borrow money. So interest equals principal times rate times time, whatever your interest rate is. Let's say it's 6%. And you take out a loan for a year. Let's say you take out a $100 loan and you're going to agree to pay 6% interest, but you're going to pay all the money back in a year. You would pay $6 in interest. So you're going to pay the $100 back plus the $6. So you pay a total of $106. And this is just another example. So let's say you were buying a new car and it cost $20,000 for 3 years at a rate of $10,000 per year. What will my total repayments be? So you can do principal, the $20,000 times the interest rate times the amount of years that you are paying the loan back, and they get $6,000. So you're going to pay back the $20,000 that you borrowed plus the $6,000 in interest. So you pay back a total of $26,000. All right, guys, I think I'm over time. We will pick up tomorrow. We'll go over the questions for the economics lesson, and I'll continue going over those math word problems. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day.